coming back. We're celebrating new music with Steve Hill, talking about the brand new album, Hanging on a String. And we saw the video for it. Great, great stuff. Um, Steve, tell us about, going into an album. I know you never want to kind of repeat yourself. You're always trying to do something a little different. What, um, what was the attitude and idea in mind, and why did you call it Hanging on a String?
Well, this album was it's pretty different from the other ones because usually I have a couple of years to write an album, and for this one, it came out in a different way. My friend Brian Loudenschlager, who's got a microphone company called Loudon Audio. He's a guy that hired me to do the NAM show and Sweetwater in Indiana and a couple of things like that where we showcase the microphones. And I did those with Daryl Thorpe, the engineer, 10-time Grammy winner, Daryl Thorpe. And he was the star of those events. And they wanted me for that because, they could mic the drums, they could mic the guitar amps, the vocals, the bass amp with all of their mics. And so I did those events. And then that was like about 7 years ago that I did those. And we stayed in touch, and Brian would tell me once in a while, like you got to come down to California and record, And almost 2 years ago, I was on tour out west, and somebody filmed something, and I posted it on Facebook. And Brian happened to be at Studio 606 with Daryl. He opens up his phone and sees this performance, and he calls me and he's like, "Man, you got to come and record at Studio 606." And I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome, man." But I'm an independent artist, and I have a studio. I usually don't have a lot of budget because it's my own money that I put back into the recordings. So I try to do as much as I can in my home studio. And somehow going to California to record an album seemed like it seemed kind of impossible. And then a week later, I finished my tour out west, and I'm sleeping at my tour manager's house in the basement, and I open my eyes, and it's filled with smoke, and the house is on fire. I got out of there. I got my tour manager out of there, and another pal of mine was coming to pick me up to bring me to the airport. And I wrote something. I was in my seat before the plane took off, and I wrote, "Woke up in a house on fire. Just did 10 shows in 11 days. I'm going home." And when I got to Montreal, Brian had left me a message, and he's like, "Call me back," And I called him back, and we talked, and he's like, "Man, that's a good line for a song," and I had to agree. And he's like, "Man, you got to come and record at 606." And he finally got tired of waiting, and a week later, the studio was booked. Daryl was booked, and I had 3 months to write and practice and rehearse these new batch of songs. Which I did. So I worked really hard, 5 days a week in my studio, writing songs. I write lyrics with a friend of mine called Johnny Pilgrim, who is Canadian but lives in Los Angeles. And after 3 months, I showed up there. Johnny comes to pick me up at the airport, and 15 minutes later, somebody ran on a red light, and we got into a car accident, and I had broken ribs. I had 5 days to record the album, and after 3 days, the producers decided to postpone the whole thing because it was hard for me to sing. It's hard with broken ribs to play live as a one-man band and sing at the same time. So we postponed the thing, and I went back in January of this year, and that time I had 6 days, but I did it in five. So it's all first takes, second takes, or third takes, and I'm very proud of this record. And the title, Hanging on a String, is about, all of these times that I've cheated death. And I happen to have cheated death a couple of times in the last couple of years. So it sort of made sense as an album title as well as for the song.
Yeah, well, Studio 606, very famous. here in the Chatsworth area of the San Fernando Valley, north of Hollywood, for being, the Foo Fighters and Dave Grohl studio. And that board
Yeah,
comes from the famous, studio,
Sound
um,
City.
Sound City. That's part of the documentary that Dave made.
Yeah,
And I know there's a lot of history on that board, and certainly a lot of history in that room. A lot of people love
for sure.
recording at Studio 606. And I know it was recorded and produced by 10-time Grammy winner Daryl Thorpe, who's not only worked with the Foo Fighters, but also with Paul McCartney, Radiohead, among others. What did you
Hmm.
learn from working with Daryl?
Oh my God, so much. But one of the things is Daryl knows how to pick up a good take. If the energy is there, that's what matters. As a self-produced artist, the flaw that I have and most self-produced artists have is that we do way too many takes, and it's hard to know which one is a good take when it's you. I think I'm a better producer for other people than I am for myself, and I've produced a lot of my records. So this time having Daryl there, he was like, "No, man, that's the take. That's the take. You're not doing it again." So it was very focused. And then as far as mixing goes, well, for the first time in my life, I received mixes, and that's fine. Like, and every process was the sound was better. You usually sometimes you get the rough mixes and you're into the rough mixes, and then you get the real mixes and you're like, well, something is missing. Something got lost in translation, but it got better. The mixes were even better than the rough mixes, which were great. And then Michael Romanowski, who did the mastering, did a killer job also. That's another step in the process where at mastering, sometimes you lose a lot of the information, and it just got better. It was the same as going from the rough mixes to the real mixes, then the mastering. It was just better and better and better, and that's what happens when you got a killer team like that. Are you still there, Jay?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, tell us, Steve. Did was Dave Grohl in town? Did he ever visit, or were they on tour?
No, no, he was not in town. I haven't met him. Um, so maybe some other time.
Yeah, well, I know it's bound to happen. And another great credit coming out of Studio 606. And I know Los Angeles is different than where you are up in Quebec, but there's a lot of history here. And there's a little blues club right up the street from me here called the Baked Potato. Have you
Yeah,
ever heard of
I know
that?
for sure, for sure. A lot of people that I really respect play there. My fellow Canadian Philip Sayce plays there a lot.
Mm. Yeah, I know it's pretty famous. It's a small room, but legends play there sometime under assumed names.
Yeah,
I drive by and look at the marquee, and if it sounds real crazy, I'm probably thinking that's probably somebody too big to be playing there.
yeah,
They
yeah.
just play there for the love of it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's always great. I know Joe Bonamassa played there many times, and
Yes, it seems like he's there every week if he's not on tour.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of like a home away from home. You can
It must be on the way to Norm's Rare Guitars.
There you go. Yeah, Norm's. Every time I go over there, there's some legends walking through there looking for that hard to find that hard to find guitar.
Hmm.
Being a guitar collector yourself. I know people have these thoughts of this year, this model, and all that. How do you approach, the guitars? Is it personally what it sounds like to you, or you listen to some of those, accolades of the year and the model and all that?
Well, it's the sound and the feel. Uh, I have a bunch of vintage guitars, but I don't really bring them on the road anymore. And it depends on the guitars I use, depend on the project that I'm doing. Um, And when I recorded the album at 606, I had, of course, I couldn't bring all my guitars, so I only had three. I had a Stratocaster, I had my '59 Les Paul TV model. That's a Les Paul Junior, and I had an Epiphone by Gibson Flying V, Carina Flying V, and I ended up using the Flying V on half of the songs. It just I had gotten it about a month before, and it's really, really light. So for the one man band, that makes a huge difference for me. I try to get the lightest guitars that I can, and the design of the Flying V makes it a really good guitar for that project, because I got to play the cymbal and the hi hat with the guitar's headstock, and the way that it balances is really it's fantastic for that. So right now, that's all I'm using, Flying V's. I got three Corina Flying V's, and I got another one that was finished today by this guitar builder in France called Springer Guitars, Michael Springer, and he just finished it and sent me photos just before we started the interviews. So I can't wait to have this one because he's very respected, and he makes like really killer Flying V's. So I'm thinking of, that's all I want to play right now for this project. If I'm playing with a band, I love playing a Stratocaster. I've always loved Telecasters too. I love I love mostly Fenders and Gibson guitars. And like I said, it depends on the project, and sometimes I'm really focused on one model. And right now it's the Carina Flying V, like a '58 Flying V. That's that seems to work really well for what I do right now.
It's fantastic. It's fascinating how the guitar collecting world has grown, and somebody like Norm's is certainly reaping the rewards, having a
Oh,
treasure,
oh
a
yeah,
vault of
yep.
guitars. Yeah, I watched him go from a small store up in Reseda to that location in Tarzana, which I'm sure you visited. That
Yep.
is world renowned with his YouTube channel and the Bonamasas of the world coming through.
Hmm.
But, yeah, we're so excited about the new album. I want to encourage everyone to go check out Hanging by a String and support the one and only Steve Hill. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Been a
Jay.
pleasure. Look forward to following up with you on your next venture and hopefully seeing you next time you come to beautiful California.
Hopefully so. Thank you.